Hello, everyone, and welcome to the BUOYANT launch live stream. And also, happy National Read a Book Day. My name is Susie DeVille, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Innovation and Creativity Institute. And I help entrepreneurs work lighter while making higher profits by tapping into their innate creativity. And I'm also the author of Buoyant, the Entrepreneur's Guide to Becoming Wildly Successful, Creative, and Free. And I have written Buoyant for entrepreneurs and creators who are painfully stuck and riddled with self doubt, who believe that the answer is more work, more productivity, more discipline. And what they may not realize is that the easier path is through accessing their unbridled, inspired creativity. Now, Buoyant is also for students, educators, visionary leaders, as well as advocates of social change. So, welcome to the party. We are going to have an incredible 2 hours. We have a ton of experts who are standing by. Well, I will be bringing them on shortly, who are going to be sharing with you their insider secrets, their tips, their expertise. And these are folks who are leaders in the coaching space, in the entrepreneurial world, and in the leadership world. And they are incredibly kind and generous to be with us today and share their tips for how to succeed as an entrepreneur and a leader, as well as how to maybe avoid some of the mistakes that they might have made along the way. So, thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for supporting this beautiful book and being a part of the celebration with me today. And I want to just give you a little run through of how everything is going to work. And then I'm going to dive into a little introduction. So, we have a host of people who are here today, as I mentioned, and they're going to be coming in and speaking for about 15 minutes each. And I'll be interviewing them and we'll be digging around in the recesses of their mind. And then after everyone has had their opportunity to be live, then I'm going to reach into this giant box, and I think I can lift it up. Oh my gosh. This is where all of the entries to the Paris sweepstakes live. And so I'm going to put my paw down into this box and stir it around and retrieve the winner. And that will be at the end of the live stream. And also, we're going to have some Q&A at the end. And as we go along, if you want to ask a question, just type it into the chat, whatever social media platform that you're joining on. Just type it into the chat, and then my incredible VA who is here with us, Jess, is here, and she's going to collect everything and give those to me at the end, and I'll go through those and make sure we get those covered. So don't be shy, ask away. So let's get underway and get started. I want to begin with a quote from one of my favorite philosophers and poets, John O'Donohue. And he said, "Awaken your spirit to adventure, hold nothing back, learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you." So this quote actually underpins everything that we're going to be talking about today. And it certainly fueled the content for Buoyant. And what this is all about is literally bringing yourself alive, learning to embrace the grand adventure of being you, and leaning into your inspired creativity as the way to access your success and freedom. It is your path off the gerbil wheel And it is your opportunity to embrace a life of ease and flow. I want to start with a conversation that I had yesterday with a woman who approached me, and she said, I've been looking at your book, reading the content online about it, and hearing you talk about it and other people talk about it. And I want to tell you, Susie, I am in this horrible place of frustration and overwhelm. And honestly, I don't have any energy. I barely don't even think I would have energy to read your book and do the exercises. And my heart went out to her because she is precisely where I was in 2008. And she really is the reason why, she and others are the reason why I wrote the book, because I was determined to find a way to extricate myself out of the cinders of my life and business and reach back and help people. And so I want to start with her question and her concerns and take you into how accessible and easy this is to fold into your life. You don't have to do all of it all at once. So let's talk about what happens when we're burned out. First of all, our IQ decreases. Our ability to access our prefrontal cortex, which is this part of our brain, is interrupted. And that's the traffic cop of our mind, which tends to temper and um, uh, quash all of the impulsive thoughts and desires coming from the amygdala. So, when that traffic cop can't be accessed because we're so exhausted or so overwhelmed or so burned out, then what happens is our focus narrows in and we're in a fight or flight response to the world. So we're closed off from our imagination, from our intuition, from our ideas, and we are just in survival mode. And I completely understand what that feels like. And this is why she felt like this world that you're describing, Susie, cannot be for me. And so I want to dispel that right off the bat. What happens though when we access our creativity is that we open up our focus and we change the perception of how we view the world and how we experience it as a result. So, how do we actually open our focus? It starts with inspiration. And I know that everybody tends to believe that inspiration and the way that I may be talking about it is this light bulb over the head kind of eureka moment. And that's one definition for inspiration, but it's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the literal breathing in, inspiring yourself with beauty, art, nature, poetry, being with those you love, doing what brings you alive. When we have gifted ourselves that, and we have refilled the wells of our souls, this gives us enough willingness to do the next step. Once we're in this place of possibility and not just being reactive and shut down, then we can do what I call the 5 M's. So let me just run through what they are. The first is morning pages, which is the brainchild of author Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way. And that's 3 pages of longhand writing that you do in the morning. And it's just a wonderful way to get all of your jumbly thoughts out and away from you so that you can concentrate and you have access to the best parts of your thinking. The second is meditation, and that can be as easy as just 5 minutes sitting and relaxing or watching your breath. Doesn't require lots of time, doesn't require any kind of special technique. The third is movement, and that can be whatever is comfortable and easy for you to do. I prefer to go out for a walk and fresh air. and just enjoy being immersed in the woods and in solitude, although I do have my trusty golden retriever with me. And the fourth is moments of inspired learning. And that can be as simple as just reading an inspirational quote or listening to poetry for 1 minute. And the final is making something. And that's literally engaging our hands to make something. And it can be doodling, collaging, sketching, painting, making a meal, whatever it is. I know you don't want to hear me talk about making art. I know when you're frustrated and burned out and overwhelmed and depleted, you don't want to start talking about adding more things to your day or spending more time trying to create your way out of overwhelm. But I assure you that it is so easy to add into your day. And I'm not even going to ask you to do all 5 M's off the bat. Let's just start with one. Let's start with what I started with. And I only started with 5 minutes a day because literally that's all I could do. So let's go to morning pages. Let's dive deeply into that because it's something that I believe is easy to bring into your routine without taxing your schedule and your thinking. So I have broken this out even into 2 sub steps. So the first can be just starting with a tiny little journal like this. You don't even have to sit down and write your 3 whole pages. You can just put something like this in your pocket, and it can be something you get from a discount store with a pencil. So simple. Put it in your pocket, take a walk, and just jot down the ideas that come to you. If you're like me, you will have some of your best thinking during this time, and you're not necessarily going to get wholly formed ideas, although you may, but you're going to get little whispers. You're going to get little openings into your intuition. And that's going to change the way you feel in your body because that feels like clarity, hope, and confidence. That changes your biological state and that sends you into your day very differently than this narrow focused person who's in fight or flight. So once you have done this kind of journaling for a little while, and again, it's just capturing ideas. You're not coming up with any grand prose or anything complicated or sophisticated. You're just jotting ideas down. Then you can move into a different kind of a journal. And I'm going to show you the one that I use right now. I'm almost done with it. Um, it's just a spiral bound notebook. It is so simple. Um, and I just sit down and start writing whatever is in my mind. When I go through this process, I can be writing pages and pages of something that's confusing to me or something that has left me frustrated or I could be whining about something. Or today I wrote 3 pages of celebration. So, but it's an opportunity to separate yourself from that which has weighted you down mentally and emotionally and energetically. It is a way to take the ballast out of the basket and set you soaring. So I hope that that gives you a sense that the process to access your creativity is really can be so simple and is available to all of us. You don't have to do all of the 5 M's at once, and you don't have to spend hours and hours adding all these things into your day. Once you begin to add these in, though, I will tell you, you will start to notice that time bends for you. Your day seems to be more expansive. Your available energy seems to be higher. You will have greater willingness to take bold action and make decisions that perhaps you have been putting off. So I hope that that makes sense. If you have any questions about the inspiration path to doing the 5 M's and then starting with your morning pages, please put those comments in your chat and I will cover those at the end. So without further ado, look who's in the green room. This is so exciting. Oh my gosh. Look. Woo-hoo. Okay, let me see here. I'm going to play around with something. You guys, hang on. I just want to try. Can I get a better? Oh, I think I was hoping I would get a proper division of thirds, but so welcome the
Happy
people
book
who you
birthday!
see.
Happy
Thank
birthday!
Happy
you.
long day! I woke up full of
So,
excitement.
I have to tell you all that the two fabulous women you see before you are Trena White, who is the co-founder of Page Two Books, who is my publisher and my protector and my supporter and my cheerleader and all of those things. And also with us, I had to put them in the panel together, is AJ Harper, who is of similar stature and evoking gratitude from me, who is an unbelievable expert in writing, editing, and publishing. And she helped me take the gloppy mass of my 100 plus thousand words and put it into a form that was something that you could read and enjoy. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Look what you did. Look what
Wow.
you did.
Woo!
It's real.
It's real. And it's so funny. I was in town a few days ago. My books got into the local bookstore, and the gentleman who owns the bookstore, who's absolutely fabulous, asked me to come in and sign, which of course I was leapt at the chance. And he was keeping them in the back until today. But it was such a surreal thing to be sitting there signing those books, and then to hear him say that he was aware of conversations about the book. And that's where I was just like, oh my gosh. So thank you so much for being here and celebrating with me. I want to start with Trena, and I want to ask both of you this question. What is it that you most would like for people to know about you?
What I would like people to know is, first of all, I'm deeply proud that we are the publisher of BUOYANT, and it's just such a thrilling day. So congratulations, Susie.
Thank you.
I would say we are a publisher of entrepreneurs and subject matter experts, and many of whom face some of this kind of burnout and self-doubt that you talk about in BUOYANT. And so I feel like it's a book that's deeply relevant to so many of the people that we support and work with and publish, as well as myself, and that I have been deeply moved and changed by it personally. So I'm excited to talk more today.
Thank you. AJ, what do you most want people to know about you, you fabulous, fabulous creature?
I think that I help people write better books, the books that they really want to write, that become must-reads in the communities they serve. And I'm really excited about this day because when you came into workshop, I knew you were a rare bird. And it's just been an honor to help you realize your vision for this book.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Trena, I want to ask you, what is it that is so unique about Page Two and how you coach authors to be forward thinking about their goals and understand clearly during the writing process what it is that they want to have happen and how you coach them through the whole production process?
I think what's different is the way that we really try to tune in to the author and their needs and goals, and the way the book is meant to support typically a whole ecosystem of their business. And it's kind of part of a bigger master plan for most of our authors. And so for us, what success looks like is helping our authors achieve what it is that they want to do with the book. And so it's really about joining together with the author in a really meaningful partnership to create what it is that they're aiming to do with it, rather than kind of imposing a vision. It's something that we're co-creating, and that's quite different in book publishing. And so, yeah, it's about trusting the author's, expertise and intuition, and bringing ours into the mix equally.
Well, I certainly had that experience, and I have a background in academic publishing, and I can
Mhm.
assure everyone who is watching this that page two does not work the way that typical publishers do. And the door is always open for new ideas, new ways to make the book better, new ways to make the messaging stronger. And anyone who is considering publishing, I just want you to fully understand that if you choose page two, you are nurtured in this
Mm.
nest of brilliant people
Mm.
who tend to you and put band-aids on your knees when you scrape them and keep cheering you on. And they're experts in what they do. And they never let you get lost in the weeds. And you have so much creative control, which is absolutely not the case with most publishers. And that co-creation creates unique books, and books that have clear messaging that resonate with the desired audience.
Thank you so much,
Um,
Susie.
oh, you're welcome. AJ, I want to talk about the subtitle of your fabulous book. Your book is called Write a Must Read. And what's the subtitle?
Craft a book that changes lives, including your own.
So, what does that mean exactly? How are we going to be transformed when we write our books?
Well, first of all, let me back it up. And I chose the word craft for a reason. And you are great. You have great respect for craft, Susie. And so that's about learning how to not just write one book, but the craft of actually writing something transformational. Once you've learned that, that's always yours. And also respecting that it's an ongoing process of improvement, not something that's transactional. But the transformational part of for authors is they don't really realize that when they do the work of writing something designed to help someone else transform, that process actually shifts their perspective as well. I think primarily it's a clarification process. So we think we know what we're writing, we think we know what we're all about, we think we know what our messaging is, we think we know who we serve, but that process is a refining and narrowing down into, oh, okay, this is really who I serve. This is really what I'm all about. This is really the change I want to help. This is my process simplified. So all of that helps you as an author come out the other side, sort of like a spiffed up, shinier, more accessible, relatable, powerful version of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I can tell you, I had the most incredible experience multiple times experiencing exactly what you just spoke about, because I knew on one level to whom I wanted to write, But then I knew there were all these undercurrents under the surface, and I had loose threads of of research and of experience and my own time in loss and grief, and I wanted to figure out how to make it all cohesive. And the lead domino was getting that ideal client, that core message, that ideal reader slash core message process. And then it was just like, I mean, it just came started. And it's the most, so I want to just explain if you are an entrepreneur or a leader and you're trying to figure out how to write your manuscript or pull these ideas together, you don't have to suffer by yourself. You can take AJ's fantastic workshop, which is called the Top 3 Book Workshop. And she just takes you right through this process. And it is the most delicious sense of relief when you really understand who your ideal target readers are, and more importantly as well, how to articulate that message. AJ, before I go back to Trena, tell me a little bit about what truly powers word of mouth marketing with books, and what do we tend to get wrong about that?
Oh man, uh, books are still sold by word of mouth. Period. They still are. And if you don't write a book that someone loved, they won't talk about it. It's really, really simple. So if you're talking about prescriptive nonfiction, which is what you have written, the book has to deliver and help the person feel that they actually can make at least some of the change that you are promising. If you pull that off and you deliver on that promise, I mean, think about the books that you recommend. You recommend them over and over. It's the same for any book. But what we get wrong is we try and push through that process and just think of a book as a transaction, a box to check. That's not a book that people are going to say, you got to read it. You've got to read it. And that's the key. So what challenge is, a lot of authors don't understand what a long game publishing is. They don't realize that you need to allow for time when people read the book and then talk about the book. And so we tend to get impatient, and that lends itself to this sort of shortcut version of things that we have happening in some parts of publishing. And I'm so thrilled that you did not do that. First of all, you had a manuscript that made me gasp when I opened it first. And it needed that cohesive piece. It needed anchoring, it needed grounding, it needed shaping. And people would have still said, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool." But now people will say, "This absolutely changed everything for me." And when someone says that, they say it over and over, like I just said. So that's the key. You got to write a great book.
Well, thank you. And Trena, what is your favorite publishing myth that you love to dispel?
Ooh, there are so many. I would say probably one of the big ones is that it's sort of picking up on what AJ is saying, that if you write a book and get it out there, magical things will happen. It's going to transform your business. And it's like by virtue of having put something out on Amazon, suddenly everything shifts. But that's not the case unless you've written a book that is really carefully thought out. You know, you've really wrestled with every word that goes into that book. You know exactly who it's for, exactly what they need to hear from you, that you're uniquely qualified to say. Those are the books that have that massively transformational effect, both on the reader and often on the author and their business. And that's exactly, you know, what AJ's subtitle is about. And I will say, I too gasped, Susie, when I read your proposal, and in fact burst into tears. And AJ, the same for you and your manuscript. And Write a Must Read is a book that we're now giving to every single author we publish. I've already had authors tell me they have totally rewritten their entire manuscripts after reading this book. And we're just so lucky that Susie went through your process in the intensive way that she did. It's a brilliant book, and this is just the beginning.
Well, I have to just make one more comment very quickly and talk about how interesting the wheels of Providence work, because out of the blue, I got an email from Page Two to attend a webinar at the end of 2020 that was co-hosted by Trena and AJ. And the word transformational was in the title of the webinar. And I was like, oh, that sounds good. And so I watched before you were 20 minutes in, I'm like Googling AJ and trying to figure out like how to work with her, and got on her schedule immediately. And we had a lovely conversation, and I was in right off the bat. I just couldn't believe how fortunate I was.
Mm-hmm.
But I had long dreamed of working with Page Two, Trena. And so to get this message and then to connect with AJ and then for it all to come together, I was like, I have got the best fairy godmother on the planet to put me together with the two of you. So thank you so much for everything and for being here today.
Thank you, Susie. And I don't think it's just a fairy godmother. It's the way you tap into your inspiration, and that's what your book is about.
Yeah,
you create that magic.
You're living proof of the promise delivered that you talk about in your book. That's just what you just described is an example of results people can get by following the process that you detail in the book.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you for everything, and I hope you both have a wonderful day, and I appreciate your being here to celebrate with me.
Proud of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Here comes Miss Fabulous Jen. Let's see here. Let's pop her in there. Why am I not up? There we go. Nope. Hey, Jess. There we go. I'm trying to be a backseat driver, getting you out of the virtual green room, and Jess is like, Jess is supposed to be doing this, and I'm the control freak.
Oh, it's all good. I'm so excited. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
How
for
are
having me here.
you? You just had to send your baby off to school today.
High school, I was a mess. I'm all teary-eyed.
Oh
and
my
forgive me if I
gosh.
spill.
We all have totally can relate to that. Well, thank you so much for being here. This, my friends, is the one and only Jen Tuma-Young, who is the founder and CEO of Inspire Girl Enterprises. But she has probably a scroll's worth of titles and expertise. And so, Jen, tell us what you want most of all for us to know about you.
To know about me. Well, today is all about you, my friend. Today is all about you, Susie. I am celebrating the light that is Susie DeVille. And what my heart is really connecting people to their personal power and to one another, and just to remind people that the world needs their light. And so, how we get that light into the world and how we can understand how very important our dreams are, that we wouldn't dream it if somebody didn't need it, and that your light, somebody in this world needs it. You need it and others need it. So that's that. And I'm so excited to support your light today.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I can personally vouch for both the inspiration piece of the work that you do, as well as the protective mama bear energy you have around helping other people take care of and protect theirs. So I want to ask you first about what inspiration means to you and how you define that.
Oh, what a great question. So inspiration to me is obviously from the word, it comes from within, but it's something that reminds us our soul, our spirit, our who we are. And so it comes from inside, but when I see it in others, it's usually a recognition of who we are. So you inspire me, remind me of who I am born to be. So I believe we can draw inspiration from so many things in the world around us: people, trees, all different, everything that is can bring us back to who we are in our core, because the world can easily help us forget that. So
Absolutely.
so we have to shift the lens to remembering. That's really
Well, why is it that how we communicate our energy, why is that so key to our ability to draw our ideal clients right to us?
wow. This is good question, Susie. You're making me. I'm like, you are a great interviewer, not only a master author, but a beautiful interviewer. So I do believe that our energy, our vibration, it speaks before our words even do. It speaks so much. And so when we can, if you're looking at vibrational energy, and everything has it, love and connection and enlightenment is sort of at the top of that energetic scale, and worry and fear and anger and all those things are the lower vibrational energy. The magnet energy is at the top. So when we can just open up ourselves to this connection, to this love, we're going to attract all that we need in our world to us. And it's easier said than done, because, we can all get into the worry mind. But I don't know if I'm answering your question, but
You are answering it beautifully. Beautifully.
But I always say the gateway and the bottle rocket. So people say, well, how do you get to this connecting love? It sounds kumbaya, it sounds beautiful, but how do we get there? And for me, and for all the incredible humans I've been blessed to work with and learn from, and that I feel like the common denominator, or the bottle rocket, if you will, is courage. So when we can get into our courage, it bottle rockets us right into connection and love. We're out of worry, fear, anger, frustration, and all those lower vibe energies. Courage is really that gateway. So, and courage can come in so many forms. It doesn't mean we're standing at the edge of a cliff, jumping down on a bungee cord. As fun as that sounds. But so I feel like when we can, tap into that, that's when we really connect with all the people we're supposed to connect with.
But don't we get the messages that courage does have to look like jumping across a chasm, and that we discount on a regular basis that little glowing ember of courage that could very well be just enough for us to pick up the phone and make that call or send the email or
Yes.
take the next step.
Courage, I think, is so much more in those small things, in those everyday things. Courage can be just looking up at it, as simple as it sounds, looking up into somebody's eyes, and that human connection. It can be a little, you're at the cashier, you don't want to be like staring at their eyes. So that can be, you kind of look away, you kind of whatever. But if you just give them that little moment of human connection, that could be enough to spark a fire in both of you, because that person feels seen and you've recognized yourself in that person's eyes. And that little bit of courage can just light a whole big fire. And, I say you can do courage in all these small everyday things that are not jumping off the edge of the cliff.
So, shifting into another hat that you wear beautifully, tell us, as a publicity expert, what are your top 3 tips for garnering publicity?
Wow. I think that you might be the first person to ever refer to me as a publicity expert.
Are you kidding me?
I mean, no, that's not true. Maybe a couple people, but I haven't really heard that a lot.
Holy moly. I anoint thee.
But, I do find that, okay. So some tips, laughing. Some tips to share our messages and put ourselves in front of people, because really that's what publicity is, right? It's sharing your message in different formats, whether it be TV, whether it be radio, whether it be podcasting or print, all kinds of ways to garner publicity. And what I find is there's a couple of things. One, obviously, if it's something that's deep within your core, like this message has to come out of you, that's a good place to start. The second is to really sort of speak in the language of the viewer or the reader, or we have our own language. I mean, I can be very woo-woo. I can go there in a minute. But I do understand that not everybody speaks that language. But if I want this message to reach people that are watching a show, I have to watch that show. I have to understand the language that host speaks and those viewers speak. And if it's an alignment, if it's a soul alignment, if it feels really good, I'm never a fan of publicity just for publicity's sake. And I know probably a lot of publicity experts might disagree on that one. But I am a fan of finding where your voice feels necessary. That doesn't always mean that you're exactly the same viewpoints, because sometimes bringing your voice to an altering viewpoint can be an absolutely beautiful thing. So, our best guide, I always say, is our internal compass. So we know where we need to be. We listen to where we need to be. And then we study and understand the language that outlet speaks, so that we can speak in their language and understand, right? And connect with their viewers and create a pitch that resonates with the producers. It's not like coming out of left field, like where's this, pitch coming from? They don't even watch the show. And it's kind of funny, because so many people do say when they want, I think I need to be on TV, or I think I need to be on this platform. And they say, but I don't watch TV, or I don't watch it. And I'm like, well, now's a good time to start.
Well, it's interesting too how this conversation is relating to the conversation that I had with Trena and AJ, in that there's this lack of patience with regard to pursuing publicity, like there is with pursuing publishing. And can you talk a little bit about how, if we lean more into the knowing that it's all going to unfold, that we're much better served than if we're grasping and chasing and sending stuff out that has no relevance to those markets?
So good. So there's two things in that. There's sort of a more spiritual thing, if you will, I will say, and then one that's a little bit practical on the practicals. Not that spirituality isn't practical. You know what I mean? So, so when we're in that magnet energy, that energy that attracts, it doesn't have that incessant impatience. It doesn't have that feeling of grasping at straws. It's having the knowing and then letting it go. It's like putting the bottle in the water and trusting it's going to go exactly where it needs to be. And when we can get in that beautiful space of just knowing and being and letting it go, what is meant will always find its way to you. There's no need to worry or stress or be incessantly chasing. It will come. And so that, energetically will always open up your magnet to all that is good that is going to come into your world. On the more practical tip side of that, patience and impatience. So if you send out a pitch, right, to media, a lot of times people get very discouraged if they don't hear back. Even if they follow up once or twice, very discouraged, because they're like, I pitched, I didn't hear back. I followed up, they never got back to me. and they want to get booked or they want to have that placement right away. But pitching isn't like that. I mean, just like everything else, producers have a million hats to wear, a million things going on. They might simply not have seen your pitch. They might have seen it, but the pitch didn't resonate for the stuff that they're working on. You have to continually follow up. And this is where the trust is. It's not following up like, why didn't you respond to me? And I don't mean that anybody would say that, but that energy of like impatience versus I'm just checking in. I'm just checking in, just following up, maybe, becoming a resource for that producer, creating a relationship with that producer, checking in without stressing out. If that makes any sense. And, there are times that I've been on a show thinking, I have a great pitch for them, and they don't respond. And I know I have a long-standing relationship with the producer, and I follow up. And it could be a year or 2 years later that my follow-ups finally land, or they reach back out to me because they're in need of something. And it's not that incessant follow-up. It's just that persistent, not giving up, resilient without, creating this energy of I need to be on it,
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a persistence and patience without making either being quote unquote rejected or not hearing back personal.
Yes.
Because
our humanness feels that.
Yes, of course. You're like, well, why didn't you answer my email?
They didn't want me to share. I have this great information, and I always say to people, you have to flip it, because it's not anything about you. Pitching isn't about us. It's about who we can serve and how we can serve them and the viewer. And you have the gold. I tell you this, Susie, all the time. You do have so much gold to offer people, that just trusting that your tips are going to reach who they need to reach in the exact time, in the exact way, in the exact perfect alignment, it's just going to happen. But if you think they have the gold, the producer has the gold, that I need to get onto that show because of me, I need this publicity because I need to sell, it's a different energy.
Wow. Well, I could talk to you, as you well know, for about 10 more hours.
And sometimes we do.
But thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for all of your wisdom and all of your support. You are a vortex of just incredible love and kindness and genius. I mean, you've got it all, girl.
Oh, no. Susie, what you see of me is exactly who you are. That is all that is. That was a mirror to you. Congratulations on this book launch. Everybody needs to read this book. I have to tell you, Buoyant, I read it and I immediately was just writing notes. You have so much goodness in that book. So congratulations, and thank you for bringing me on today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Oh my gosh. It's Casey.
Hey, what's up?
I'm so excited.
I'm excited for you. It's a big day in your life. Super exciting to launch a book.
So everyone, if you don't know who this foxy thing is, this is Casey Carter, who is the founder of This Epic Life, and his book is called Permission to Glow. And I had this wild idea. Was it like 5 years ago? I think it was. And I reached out to you to interview you for my blog.
Right.
And you were so kind and so gracious, and just spilled just one incredible nugget after another. And I was just furiously writing notes down, and I hung up the phone, and I literally said aloud, to the point where it scared the dog. I was like, that dude just changed my life.
Oh my gosh. Awesome.
So it's so cool, because I was at the beginning. I had not started the writing process in earnest yet. So I like to think that you are just part of this wonderful tilling of the soil of me and getting me ready to create. So welcome.
It's so good to be here with you, especially on such a momentous occasion. Super excited for you. Super excited to help share and serve your community in any way we can during our time
Well,
here.
thank you. So tell us a little bit more about what you do and what your passion projects are.
Sure. Well, I think there's who we are on paper, and then there's who we are under the hood. And I'd say on paper, most people know me as an executive coach and meditation teacher for organizations. And that's kind of a Trojan horse for spiritual wisdom that I like to bring in organizations. So by working as a coach, by working as a consultant or a teacher inside orgs, I'm able to bring some ancient wisdom, proven wisdom into a modern context, whether that's yoga. This is not the work that I would have chosen. It kind of chose me. And my latest book, Permission to Glow, as you mentioned, is just kind of the latest summation of that work. How do I inspire organizations and modern leaders to give themselves one of 4 permissions that unlocks conscious leadership? So those are my passions. That's my work.
So you sent out a newsletter several weeks ago, and you put a statement in there that took the top of my head off because it's something that I believe so passionately. And I would love for you to talk about it. And here's the statement that you said. Being creative is our greatest responsibility. Let's dish.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there's a quote that comes up for me when you repeat that back to me. Something like, I don't know who it's attributed to, but it basically is the only true happy people are children and the creative minority.
Wow.
And it really stuck with me as a kid, that we live in a world that wants to squeeze that out of us, that, you don't want to be a silly heart. You got to figure out your job on the assembly line and go conform and do the boring crap that everyone else does. And I was really lucky to be kind of spurred on by my grandfather. He was a very creative spirit. He always took me to go see the orchestras at Lincoln Center in New York City, took me to Juilliard, took me to see Broadway shows. And I think what I was getting at in that newsletter is that I work with a lot of people that identify as corporate non-creative types, but I think that's a fallacy. I think we're all here to create something and to contribute something, and maybe our art is a spreadsheet or some sort of workflow that nobody else uses. But creativity is our greatest responsibility, because I think that is spirit expressing through us. So it's about surrendering into whatever's being asked of you. Like I mentioned, I never thought that I would be a teacher at this intersection of consciousness and business. I mean, there's no major for that in college, and when these 4 permissions showed up in my life as symbols first, they basically said, we are your boss now. You do what we need you to do. And so I think my job and everyone's job is to just surrender into being more creative with how we get our work out there, how we connect with people. It's what Spirit's asking of us.
So did your symbols arrive during a meditation?
Yeah, over the course of many years, like the first to arrive was probably the pause button. I started corporate meditation programs in past companies I worked for, and we always called it the pause, because it was a universal symbol. It doesn't imply religion or dogmatic spirituality or anything like that. It's just, let's hit the pause button on the crazy train for a minute and just regroup. And so yeah, the pause button showed up first, and then it was unicorns and lightning bolts and all the other 1980s pop culture magic that came with it. Yeah.
So if someone feels cut off from their creativity, what do you how do you recommend to clients that you work with how they can reconnect?
Yeah, well, I'd say that what comes up for me is to, there's always the follow the path of least resistance. That's what we do when we distract ourselves from doing our highest work. We plant our asses in front of some mix and, maybe start scrolling our phones. That's what I do when I'm avoiding my creativity, or I get so consumed with inputs, like reading everybody else's stuff, just overly consumptive of everything rather than creating my work. And what I'm going to ask people to do is to the inverse, which is to follow the path of most resistance. So what is the thing you're resisting the most? Like today, some point, I have to design a big immersive display booth for a conference that we're sponsoring next month. And it's a pretty involved creative project. It's a lot of writing. It's a lot of visual design, getting everything print ready, like lots of levels to it. And I notice how much I'm resisting that process, but just by being willing to sit in the unknown of what it can look like or do. Like one of my teachers, you might probably know of her, Susan Piver, fellow Page 2 author, incredible Buddhist meditation teacher, author. She basically said, the best advice I got on writing my book was, the book isn't going to generate itself. It's only going to get generated when your butt's in the seat and your fingers are on the keys. And so I'm always trying to inspire my clients to just get their butt back in the seat and their finger on the keys and just see what shows up. Just that act, that willingness to wait it out. I mean, it's very similar to meditation. It's very similar to sobriety. It gets generated in the moment to moment to moment. And that's the muscle I think we're building. It's not the romantic notion that you're just going to whip out a book in a matter of hours or create a work of art when you haven't done that before, but to wait out whatever genius may come, whatever droughts may come, and to just be in receiving position. And that's what I think most of us resist.
It's always interesting to me that when I pierce the membrane of resistance and finally start to do the thing that I don't want to do,
right,
I'm in about 90 seconds of discomfort, and then it's gone.
Right.
And I'm always, and no matter how many times I go through the process, I'm always like, wow, that just kind of wasn't very long. Now I'm in it and I'm going. Now I may run into a different kind of a roadblock or a different thing that I don't know how to do, or some kind of like mind gremlin that comes out from behind the bushes. But I can Lego together these moments of piercing the veil, letting it pass, doing the next thing. And that gives me enough courage and enough willingness to keep going and to come back the next day and not find another bathroom to clean instead.
Right. Right. That's the creative muscle that you're looking to build over time. It's eventually you'll start showing up because you don't know any better, and I think what you pointed to that's so brilliant that I love so much about that is that being in the generative creative act is so much more pleasurable and rewarding than all of that resistance that's stacked up in front of it. So when we sit there for 90 seconds, in some cases, like you said, we surprise ourselves and realize like, oh my God, this is what I was avoiding. Yes, it can be uncomfortable and I don't know what's about to happen next. And is there anything more rewarding than that? And I think that does have a lot of continuity between, it's not only the fine arts and the writing and the design and the creative arts, traditionally creative arts. It can be working on our businesses, it can be creating a new process around something that didn't exist before. All of these are creative acts.
1000%. Systems, the things that are not my favorite cups of tea that I would love to keep delegating to someone else, but sometimes you have to get in there and do that stuff yourself. And I will just cling to the edge of the cliff before I finally let go and surrender to it. Tell us a little bit about what you wish you had known when you first got started, all the lessons that you've learned over the course of these years. What's the one that you really would have loved to have known starting out?
Well, since your book is about entrepreneurship and creative entrepreneurship, I'll kind of frame this around what I wish I would have known as an entrepreneur, because I'm about 6.5 years into this journey. When you interviewed me for your blog, I was maybe a very messy year into that, so I had figured some out where I stood on some things, but in terms of creating a sustainable business, I mean, do we ever know if we're done, But I remember that period of time, 2017, feeling, fairly lost and finding my way. And the thing that I would have wished I would have known sooner that just keeps smacking me over the head lately is similar to what we were just talking about, is that the anticipation and the resistance of doing the big bold thing, that's just our fear, and it's never going to go away. We're never going to feel fully confident in what we're doing, but just being willing to be in the seat doing the bold thing, that's where all the magic gets created. So I probably would have written my book sooner. I probably would have gotten hired for these bigger keynotes sooner, or sold a big corporate book deal to one of my bigger clients. I would have put these things in front of them sooner had I realized that, I didn't have to settle for just the, unconscious resistance to all of it, that all of this keeps getting better and better and better, to the degree we're willing to just make these tiny, bold moves. Every single day is just a series of tiny, bold moves. It doesn't have to be this radical, brave, chest beating, macho crap,
Yes.
right? It could just be the tiny, brave thing next to tiny, brave thing, and it just builds upon itself.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. What words of wisdom, and what a light you are. There is no way that anyone can come into contact with you, whether in a phone conversation or on a live stream or reading your work, reading your books, reading your newsletters, seeing the things that you post on social, where you don't get the jumper cables to your heart and your temples at the same time. You're just this delightful human who's always looking to serve. And you model what you teach in the way that you live, and everything is in alignment. And it's so inspiring. So thank you so much for being here with
Beautiful.
us today.
Thanks so much, Susie. That means the world to me. And again, I'm just celebrating you today. I can't wait to get my hands on this book and to leave some reviews and to blow up all the socials with it. What you did is a real generous act, and I absolutely need this book. So I can't wait to be sitting down with it soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, Sue Barber.
Hello. How are you?
I am terrific. I am so happy to see you and
You
hear your
too.
melodious voice.
Happy book birthday to you. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you so much. So Sue Barber is president of Susan M. Barber Coaching and Consulting, and she's the author of The Visibility Factor. And a lot of what I want to chat with you about today has to do with visibility and where we tend to trip up over ourselves in that department. So let's start off with learning a little bit more about the work that you're doing, and tell folks about your podcast too.
So the book is called The Visibility Factor, as is the podcast. It keeps it really simple and easy for everybody to find it. Really, it's all about helping leaders understand the importance of showing their value, showing their true talent, so that they can get opportunities. And if they're not doing that, if they're hiding and being invisible, no one's going to know that they're great and they're wonderful and that they could do more than they're showing. So I'm trying to help people understand that it's easier than you think. It doesn't have to be really hard. You can do it, and in your own authentic way. That's really what I want people to understand.
So define a little bit for us what becoming visible is and what it looks like.
I mean, it's different for every person. I think depending on who you are, your personality, your experiences, everyone approaches it a bit differently. And that's why I have hundreds of ideas in the book, because I didn't want to leave something out that someone might be able to use. But if I use my own experience, for me, it was beginning to sit at the table with the executive team. It was raising ideas in a room where I may not have done that before. It's partnering with someone else to try to make sure that we're giving each other opportunities for visibility and talking about the other. So those are just a few easy examples of things that people can start doing today to be more visible and get in front of people instead of hiding.
Why is the willingness to be more visible so essential to a visionary leader and or an entrepreneur?
Well, if no one knows you, they're not going to hire you as an entrepreneur. I can tell you that much. And as a leader, you may not get opportunities. If I think about my own experiences back in corporate, I wanted to get a promotion, but I didn't know exactly how to approach being more visible. I thought I was. I thought I was sitting in the room and doing all the right things, but I wasn't. And then I also didn't realize that I was hurting my team by not doing that. So all of those learnings, I think I brought to this book and to the podcast, because I want people to understand how easy it is to do and that they can do it today. And that it doesn't mean that you're pushing yourself too far out of your comfort zone, right? I want to push them a little, because you have to get a little uncomfortable to try new things. And we all know that that's challenging. But when you start doing it, it gets easier. I mean, I would never have dreamed of being live on anything probably 3 years ago.
Me either.
It's just a whole new world once you start doing it and realize it's actually fun, and going into it from an idea of fun, not fear.
Well, I think it's such a great point that you made, because it reminds me of Brené Brown's concept that your unused creativity is not benign, it's toxic to us.
Mm-hmm.
So when we withhold ourselves from the conversation, let's say in the boardroom, or we shrink back and we don't step up as an entrepreneur and do a live stream, and we have these ideas that we know would connect and resonate with the people who really need to hear our message or hear the information, we feel this just stagnating soup on the inside of our souls because we know we're holding back. And it's not just that we're not speaking up, it's just we're robbing ourselves of this opportunity to release these ideas into the world and inspire other people, as well as inspire and energize ourselves.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a number of research studies that have been done, and most of the time people don't speak up because of fear, because they don't feel safe enough to do it, or a previous situation that's happened to them, or their own thoughts. So a lot of people have imposter syndrome, and imagine 70% of people are walking around every day with some form of imposter syndrome and not sharing their ideas like you just talked about. How much is being wasted because they're not sharing? What if improvements could be made or changes could be made that made the organization, more successful, but you're keeping it to yourself? And so I know that they have those little ideas and thoughts in their head, and it's just like taking that 20 seconds of insane courage to put it out there. And people may agree with it, they may not, but it's right. You don't have to worry about that. Your idea is out there now.
So what could a leader in an organization do? I just watched Dead Poets Society for the umpteenth time, and I'm thinking about Robin Williams, his character, going over to Ethan Hawke, who's Todd, the terrified student, who, as Robin said in the film, you're just so sure that everything inside of you is wrong or uninteresting. And that's why he was so petrified of speaking in class. So what does the leader in the organization do when you have a student, quote unquote, a member of the organization like that, and there's greatness in there? What would be some tips to help a leader who may be listening today help not let the typical conversation happen from the usual suspects, but to really evoke the creative insights from somebody who's so quiet?
I love this question because there's a lot of leaders who just let the people who are more extroverted speak, or the people who may have more confidence. But I ask them to think about, how can you include everyone in this, and not to the point where you're making them fearful to speak at all, but just saying, what do you think about that idea? Just very simple questions. I think it's about helping them understand that you believe in them
Mhm.
and that you believe in their ideas, and you really want to hear from them, because I think once they fear or feel that they're not in a bad place, they're in a safe place, they'll do that. So the leader has to make sure and facilitate those conversations and not allow that person to be mitigated and pushed to the background. They have to make sure that their idea is rewarded and that their idea is heard by everyone. And I think when you start to do that, it starts to feel safer. And then you'll share the next time and the next time and the next time. But until a leader is willing to do that, it just means you, just like you said, you hear from the normal people who speak up every time.
So, do you have some recommendations for some ways to build the musculature of our willingness to be more visible? What are some habits that we could get into?
Wow. Okay. So easy ones are even just going into a meeting with some ideas of what you might want to talk about, or some things that might come up, that you have some talking points ready to go. I think I remember many days I should ask a question. I should ask a question, but I can't come up with one. What am I going to say? And so if you come up with a list of questions or a list of talking points that are ready to go, and then you just share them in any opportunity that you get. And sometimes that's hard. You might have to insert yourself in between other talkers who are saying a lot. But I think it's important that you get your voice out there, or you can tag on to someone else's point. If someone shares something, say, I love that idea that you just shared. I really think the same thing. So those are easy things, but you have to be prepared. I think the years of just winging it were not working for me. And so I had to learn that for myself. And now I'm teaching clients to do that, because I want them to be comfortable and have stuff ready to go, especially if it's your first few times trying it.
Well, that totally resonates with me, because I know, if we take what you just said and overlay it onto the world of entrepreneurship, you don't naturally know how to present, or you don't naturally know how to deliver tidy little sound bites of your material, or you don't naturally know how to be comfortable in a free-flowing conversation in front of other people.
Mhm.
And those are things, though, that you can get so much better at, and you can build, one chunk of confidence at a time, but you have to practice.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And if I were trying to do this conversation a year ago, I would be breathing into a brown paper.
You and me both.
I would be panic stricken and freaked out. My mind would have already shut off. I would have no access, zero access to my creative thinking, to my imagination, to my intuition of where to take the conversation. But I started out taking very small steps, and then learning the technology, and then bringing people in who were safe, and got better at it, and started practicing more, and started really understanding how to articulate what it is that I want to say, and the key points in a tidy fashion.
Mhm.
But it's not part of it. I think we believe that some people were just born with these mystical gifts, and we just got the Easter bunny put eggs in everybody's basket except for ours. And we're standing there looking in our empty basket saying, well, I don't have these skills. I can't do this. But none of us, I mean, I would say maybe there are a handful of people who are naturally gifted orators and
Mhm.
comfortable in front of other people speaking. But the vast majority of us, literally number one on the list, we would rather die than give a speech in public. So I think that, taking these little steps to really learn how to, number one, let yourself off the hook, and believing that there's something inherently wrong with you, that you don't know how to do this.
Mhm.
But tell us a little bit about your favorite lesson in the world of becoming visible. When you think back on your journey, what lesson did you learn that really you want to make sure that everybody who's listening to this um, walks away with this knowledge?
I started writing a blog when I left my company, and it was the greatest thing I could have ever done. Partially, it was to make sure that people saw me as an entrepreneur and leadership coach at the time, and really trying to help people understand that I transitioned from corporate into this world of entrepreneurship. The unintended consequence, which I think was amazing, and I was so happy to see it, is I was really vulnerable with stories that I shared about my experiences or clients that I had or my team. And the more vulnerable I was, the more people started reaching out to me and saying, "Oh my gosh, your story is my story. I went through that same thing. I had no idea you went through that thing," whatever it was. And so it started conversations. And those conversations turned into clients in some situations or big supporters of mine to this day who will recommend me to other people and refer me. And so I think the more vulnerable you can be as an entrepreneur in the right places, I think it just opens the door for people to get to know you and see that you're the same person online as you are in person, and that you're just going to help serve them in the best way.
I have shivers and my brain is on fire. That was so beautifully said. And I really, really thank you for taking that dive into that, because um, we want to hold out to the world some sort of strange, perfect image of this cutout version of who we are. And that's about as appealing and magnetic as a rock. But we think that's being safe, and we think
Yeah.
that's being clever. And no, I mean, just everything that everybody has spoken about on this live stream today has been about this ability to magnetize yourself to your market and pull people to you. And being vulnerable and real is where it's at, because in the more specific of the details that we share, the more generally they actually apply to others. People see themselves in us and they really want to now work with us or learn more. They're leaning in now, and they trust us because they can sense that we're not pretending to be something over here and we're something over there instead.
Yes.
Well, Sue Barber, may I just tell you how much I adore you, how lovely you are. I'm just enamored with everything about you. Her podcast is dreamy. If you ever want to just take your blood pressure down about 50 points, and get great content at the same time, tune into the Visibility Factor. Sue Barber, you're amazing. I love you.
Right back at you. I love you and everything that you're doing. And I love the book. I was lucky enough to be a pre-reader and got so much out of it. And I can't wait for my delivery to come. I think it's coming on Thursday. So I'll have my own books. But yeah, actually, Susie's going to be back on the show. She's going to be my first return guest ever on the podcast.
Ooh.
And so excited to have her back on the show and just to hear her deep dive a bit more into the book. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, thank you so much, my dear. I will be
you.
seeing you soon. Thank
All
you for
right.
being here today and helping me celebrate.
Oh, thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye-bye. Oh my gosh, it's Rachel Go-Go's.
Hello. So excited to be here today on your book birthday.
Thank you so much for being here. Rachel is the founder and CEO of the Brand ID, and the creator of every version of the Innovation and Creativity Institute website that there ever has been, as well as the logo, and lots of behind the scenes guidance and strategy, support, clapping. drying my eyes when I stumble and fall, and an all around dear human and great friend. So welcome and thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So Rachel, tell us more detail about the work that Brand ID does.
I guess in the quickest and easiest manifestation of what we do is we build websites, we write great positioning copy, and help people market and sell whatever it is that they bring to the world. But I like to take it a step deeper, and I'd say like what truly motivates me every day is that the clients that we work with, we really help them see and fulfill their potential. And deep down, that's the work that we're bringing to the world and helping them bring forward.
And so, what is personal branding all about? What is the definition of that? And why is it such an important thing to tend to?
My definition of personal branding is that I like to refer to it as a cocktail. It's part reputation, which precedes all of us, right? We all have a reputation that we bring to the table. Part of it is our essence or our DNA, and what a lot of people call today is their authentic self. And the third part, which is a very important part of the cocktail, is the marketing component of it, and just simply putting yourself out there. We all have personal brands because we all have a reputation. We all have our personality, right? Our DNA, that essence that I mentioned. But if we don't put ourselves out there, which is the number one most foundational thing people need to do is just put themselves out there, their personal brand won't be visible. So that's why that's such an important element.
So you have this secret sauce that helps people really reveal to themselves and to you as you're working with them what is underneath the surface, what's really driving them, why it is that they want to do the work that they're doing, and with whom they want to whom they want to be a hero or a heroine. So what is this process that you have called, and how does it actually work? Take us through the wizardry behind the Brand ID curtain.
It's like the Wizard of Oz, right?
Yeah.
What's there? Well, I call it the Soul ID framework, and the different letters stand for a different different part of the process. The S stands for strategize, and in the strategic phase, what I do is help people figure out who they really are at their core. I don't really ask any questions that are, I would say, extremely unusual, but I am a very, very good listener, and I'm really tuned into people, what they're saying, but also what they're not saying. So in the strategic phase, I ask a lot of questions that seem kind of basic, but they're often questions that we haven't taken the time to answer for ourselves. Questions like, what are your core values, and what's your mission in life, and what's your purpose in life, and what sort of legacy do you want to leave behind? And they really tie into the personal development component of our work, and we need those questions answered. And I say we because there's also copywriters on our team and designers, and we couldn't produce the work that we do if there wasn't a we in the we, because I can't design and I can't develop. But anyway, back to the strategy. That's the foundation of everything. Without us understanding who our clients are at their core, and they better understanding themselves, which ultimately gives them the confidence too, right? As you were just talking with Sue Barber, a lot of putting yourself out there is really built on a foundation of confidence and believing in ourselves and what we're saying and the work that we're doing. And so that strategic phase is also meant to be a confidence builder for the people we work with, because we take them down a journey of, what they've done in their past, what other people they've worked with have said about them, what are the results they want to get clients. And it's so amazing as they take that walk down memory lane, but also explain to us what they do, how it really lights them up to like catalog their journey and then start to put it out there. The next part of the Soul ID framework is the O, which stands for optimize. And that's us kind of like taking all the different pieces we've just been given in the strategic phase and start to sculpt it in various ways. So whether that's copy, whether that's design, etc., like we start to really work with it. And there's also something important in the optimize phase, which is called the O factor. And the O factor is not actually something I made up. It's a marketing concept that's been out there for a long time. When I stumbled upon it, I thought it dealt with Oprah and her Midas touch, but that's not what it is. It's really a method to figuring out product market fit and then how to just like refine aspects of your marketing or your product or your language and attracting your right audience for that connection to occur, right, between you, the seller, whether it's a service or a product, and the audience member. And the U stands for utilize. And that's, again, is like we're refining the pieces, we're starting to utilize all of them and put them out there. And then the L stands for leverage, and that's the marketing phase. So as I always say, just because we build the website doesn't mean people will come. Leveraging your property, your online property, is so important, and you have to just get the word out there in various ways, whether that's guest posting, guest blogging, podcasting, live streams like StreamYard, or being on social media. Whatever that is, you have to start, again, putting yourself out there and swimming in the ocean. We'll use a metaphor for buoyant, swimming in the ocean where your ideal clients are to start attracting them to you.
So many people believe that you sign up for getting a new website and you hand over your logo if you have it and some of your ideas for what you want to have happen, and then you vacate the scene, and then you come back and the website's ta-da. So I think that one of the biggest misconceptions that people have is that the time frame to actually go through this strategic process, the Soul ID process, it's not onerous. It's not something that you can't easily fold into your schedule, but you have to build in an awareness that this is going to take some time to go through these steps. You can't rush to the end if you haven't done this core foundational work first. And I want to say to anyone who is listening who is thinking about redesigning their website, or maybe frustrated with the existing one that they have, is that this Soul ID process that Rachel is describing is not only critical to the success of your site resonating and bringing your ideal people to you, but it has so many more interesting and powerful and enjoyable results and consequences because you've done this work. You have a lot of clarity. So your messaging all hangs together. So as a great example, when I was starting the redesign of my website, of course, went back to brand ID, and we started with the new program that I had offered called the Sketchbook Entrepreneur Masterclass. And we started building from that particular program and then outward. And from those initial conversations, the copy work, all of the questionnaires, all of the strategic input from Rachel and her fabulous team, that palette and those design concepts drove this cover. I mean, if you look at my website and you look at all of my branding and you look at all of my messaging, it all hangs together because I had the benefit of being shepherded through this process. And it's so important if you can get somebody in the balcony and help you look down at all of your messaging and all of your branding and help you connect it, get rid of the things that don't fit or don't make sense, go deeply into what resonates with you personally and what you want to communicate out into the world, it will serve you so well. And it will take you to a new level of being able to articulate what it is that you want to say into the world and be of service in a brand new way. We all want to increase our reach and our impact. And I'm convinced that the way to do it is through Rachel's Soul ID process.
Wow. Well, what a beautiful endorsement. Thank you.
I'm
So
a
you
believer.
have been through it a few times. So you are definitely like the most qualified client we've ever had for that endorsement. So thank you.
But, and I want to also just say too, is it takes you a while. Like when I started out, I was like Bambi on the ice. I just had so many things I didn't know. But I got more clear, and we kept iterating, and that's the way to success. And the cover of this book is has breadcrumb trails to how the website design was done. And then the design team at page 2 took the palette, took some of the design elements from the site, and came up with this. So it feels like you're walking into a coordinated room when you go onto somebody's website and everything just hangs together energetically, message wise, design wise. And that it reflects you.
Absolutely.
And I will say again, Rachel's team is amazing. They're not only super talented, but so kind and patient as you continue your Bambi-like stance on the ice going through the process.
Well, it's very easy to be patient when the clients are as dear as you, and you always give us so much substance to work with too. And what I always tell people is we can't manufacture our work. We can't do our work if we don't have the raw ingredients to work with. That's something that every amazing client brings to the table, and you always come with refrigerators full of amazing ingredients to empower our copywriters and our designer Veronica and our developers. We've had a few from our team, from Sarah to Jimena, even do a little bit, Christy, to do their work. So thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for being here today.
Great to be here.
And I'm so delighted that we got a chance to celebrate together. And I look forward to many more opportunities to chat as friends and also work together.
Same, me too. Thank you so much, and congratulations once again today.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday.
Take care.
Bye.
Pamela.
Hey!
Look at her. Oh my gosh. So
I'm at
happy
home
to
this
see
morning, so I'm not
you.
in the office.
Huh?
I'm at home this morning. I'm not in the
Oh,
office. As you can
yay.
tell.
Well, thank you so much for being here. This is Pamela Slim, in case you don't know, maybe one person who doesn't know. She is the CEO and co-founder of Keck Main Street Learning Lab, and she is also the author of The Widest Net, and an all-around amazing human, coach, trainer, shepherd of souls through mystical processes that have to do with your business that nobody understands.
That's a good way of saying it, right?
And she knows how to do it. So thank you so much for being here. And tell us a little bit more about all of the different things that you do, because I want people to get a clear sense of, before I start diving into your book, of all of the incredible services that you offer.
Well, first I just have to say congratulations.
Thank you.
Happy book birthday, big,
Thank
huge
you.
endeavor. And it's so wonderful to celebrate it with you. And I can't wait for your readers to get tremendous value, as well as those going to Paris with you, which is a whole
Yes.
conversation we've had before. So for me, I, as of late, tend to describe the clients that I work with as architects of liberatory change. And what I specifically mean by that is I really love to be working with people who are not only wanting to just make change in the world, but make change in such a way through their own body of work that is replacing ineffective, outdated, sometimes harmful structures, ways of approaching things with something new and really useful. Because as I think about it, in the range of different types of clients that I have, and it's everything from data scientists to doctors, authors, really creative coaches, there are, when we think about the number of ways, to be very frank, in which we're screwed up, let's say we have abundant opportunity or we have many challenges happening right now, there just is, I think, such a need to not just talk about it, not to sit back and worry about it, but really to say, how can we build and create new things, new ways of working, new ways of engaging, new ways of understanding each other so that things are better. And for me, that's really the thing that gets me out of bed every day, is in approaching my work that way, knowing that people I'm working with, like the joy I had of doing it with you and our prior guest, Rachel, who also is a client who I love working with. In doing that work, it makes me feel a lot of joy and meaning in what I'm doing. So it's not just about what I'm bringing to my work. It's knowing that through the people who I'm working with, I feel like there's this group of people that are all over the world, not only at all people that I work with, but many of my beloved colleagues work with, that are really committed to this liberatory better change. And that kind of legacy work, I think, is the thing to me that really gets me out of bed in the morning. So the way I do that can be a little different depending on the year. What is on my current docket and really a specific focus, one is in doing work one-on-one with people, although I will be shifting a little bit in the next year to not be doing quite so much of that, so that I can focus more on working with people in building more structure around their IP. So building a lot of licensing and certification models for people that really, like yourself, have a deep body of work, have something specific where they really want to be extending it one-to-many with people. I'm working with my colleague, Darren Padilla, who I worked with for many years, to create an approach to designing a certification program that is effective and can really create a strong learning program. So that's one area. And then the other thing that's interesting that I'm excited about is in the work that I've been doing, especially in the last 2 years of helping my clients create certification programs or scale through their IP. I have a couple opportunities right now of actually doing the same with my own IP material from Body of Work, my last book, and The Widest Net, to create a program with some partners that they can then sell into their client base, which are more the business to business clients. So those are opportunities that I'm really going to be focusing on a lot in the coming year. And then I do have a really fun retreat coming up based on The Widest Net that'll be happening in October, the 6th through the 9th in Mesa, Arizona, in our learning lab. And then I'll be walking people through the entire method of The Widest Net, but in the context of a group, which, as you know, is extremely exciting. And I call it the third space. Like, something happens when you bring people together.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. Well, this is a perfect segue for me to ask you about what exactly is the widest net and how do entrepreneurs go about casting it, catching more fish?
Yes. So I will say, so it is a metaphor. The metaphor is actually, we do tend to think about it, right? For casting and bringing in the fish. I actually think about the widest net as being a net that is supporting people so that no matter what happens, nobody can fall. And it's a metaphor that I use, and it's actually a method that I've used with my clients to build an audience, to build a community, to figure out, where are the best places where you can be on podcasts for your book. It contrasts with what I call empire culture, where a lot of the way that we've been trained as business people is to think of business about building our own individual empire. And for me, there's a couple problems with it. One of them is empires have generally been pretty bad for most people, except the person at the top. It has a lot of crush, dominate language, which is not really in line with my own values of liberation, collaboration, community. And I also think it's just not as effective as looking at, in the widest net method, centering your ideal client, somebody like in the case of your book, who is highly creative, who wants to contribute something powerful and impactful to the world. And when we look at that, in the case, maybe an ideal reader for your book, around that person, they're looking in all kinds of places, in person and online, for support and help. So your book is one example of what can be super helpful to them to understand how to do that more effectively. They also might work with a business coach, with a CPA, with an IP attorney. They probably listen to some podcasts or audiobooks. They might attend conferences and events. They might use software in order to run their business. So these are all examples of people, institutions, tools that somebody in an ecosystem is looking for to help with the thing that you're helping them with. So my premise in the book is we need to really understand the totality of that ecosystem and focus our marketing plan on connecting with audiences that are already built, rather than just looking to be bringing everybody into your own empire.
And isn't that a breath of fresh air? But the other thing is that I can just feel the relief that would come off of somebody's shoulders when they feel that I have to be the person who's holding this whole globe up all by myself. It's no fun, B, completely counterproductive. It's not effective. And as you put it, that doesn't tend to render collaboration and cooperation, but rather that sort of crush and dominate model. So when you have identified this beautiful net and ecosystem of partners and collaborators, I know you also have this wonderful phrase called tiny marketing actions. Mm-hmm. How do you actually take this knowledge of this ecosystem and start to implement in a way that doesn't overwhelm you and feel like you're drowning under the tasks?
Yeah. So the idea of tiny marketing actions came directly from the work that I was doing with clients. And one of what I call the main characters in the story, Carly Cunningham, who is a dear friend now. She was a friend before we started working together, but now she's been a longtime client. And she had been at a stage in her business a number of years ago where, although she was exceptionally talented and her clients loved her, she did great work, she had one of those moments, which anybody who's been in business for a while has probably had it, where she had been so focused on just delivering for her clients that came to her mainly through referral, that she hadn't done a lot to really stimulate her network. And all of a sudden, it was just this weird point of convergence where there weren't more clients. She'd finished up the projects and she didn't really have a clear plan of what it is she was going to do moving forward. So as is normal, she felt anxious about it. It was one of these scary times where you just think, I need to do everything all at the same time. And so what I did in partnership with her is lean on some of the science about how we actually make effective change based on tiny habits. There's two great books, Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg and then Atomic Habits by James Clear. And a lot of the science really speaks to the fact that it's more effective for us to make small incremental changes every day over time, rather than trying to do everything all at once. Even in the case, like in Carly's case at that time, where it was quite important to be doing things rather quickly to generate activity. What we did, she was a very competitive person, and I love that about her. She was a competitive ice skater growing up. She was a mountain biker. She loved a challenge. And so we just created very specific tiny marketing actions, ways she could be reaching out to her network, connecting with past clients, re-engaging with people for coffee. It was a superpower for her to have really powerful in-person conversations. And every time she did that, she had a little notebook, which she gave herself a gold star every day for doing those 2 or 3 outreaches. And she laughed, we laughed after, and I included this in the book, that, you know, when she was doing it, because we were friends and she respected me, like, she didn't really question it. But believe me, in her head, she was like, are you kidding me? Like, these are dire straits. How is this going to happen? These little actions couldn't possibly turn things around. But they really did. It was just quiet at first and little subtle things. And one person who was like, hey, I do have a little project, you know, which she started to do, in maintaining a consistency over time with these steps. She ended up completely turning back around her business. She then got a $100,000 grant that she decided to apply for in one of the inspiration from Tiny Marketing Actions, where she codified her entire powerful method for branding, and continues to be one of the most passionate, you know, advocates for it. So I share a lot her story about Tiny Marketing Actions, because I tend to think sometimes that even though we know that we need to market, it becomes that thing of like, oh, but I'm just super busy. Like, you know, understand, Pam, I have these things to do. And like, I get it. I'm busy myself. Marketing is like water for your garden. You literally cannot do without it, but you don't need to flood your garden and turn the water on for 24 hours. It can just be like a couple little drops to keep things alive, but do it consistently every day.
It's so interesting because everyone has the same reaction to creativity, that, I don't have time to do that. And don't have the talent, don't have the time. It's not going to impact my business. It's not enough. How is that going to turn my business around by doing these things? It's completely related to one another. And this, this fear of, and also the breaking through of the way that culture teaches us that if it's not these broad strokes of all of these different acts, then we're not going to have any results. That's the way that the brain wants to broadcast to us. So if you were starting over today, knowing all of the things that you know now, what would you choose to do differently with regard to your business, if anything?
It's funny, I've answered this question differently at different times. So here's today's answer. And in general, I say, I am grateful for the whole journey. It has a lot of what you said of just the magic and mystery sometimes of one thing leads to the other. What can feel like a bad decision one day ends up being something that's interesting and powerful the next. But part of what I've become obsessed with recently is just looking at ways to be effective and efficient to really create conditions that allow creativity and ease to flourish. I think you and I share a joy for a joyful life, a connected life, spending time with loved ones, travel. Whew, just haven't gone to Paris. I'm like, me and my daughter like want to go back so badly. And I really like the idea, what I've been diving into with books like Free Time from Jenny Blake is, in Second Brain by Tiago Forte, is thinking about how important it is to build out some systems to completely close the loop. And for whatever reason, I always come back to plumbing metaphors. I've never like had a plumbing business in my life. Something about it's very tactical. What I know I have done in the past, sometimes in business, of being somebody who's highly creative and always interested in something new, is basically plumb like most of my house and maybe have a slightly functional thing. For example, if I create a new program or something where I might get everything together and deliver it once, and then basically unplug the plug and just have it sit on my hard drive is like some relic of my past life. And it's, I think, driven so much by my high desire to be creative and to be creating new things. What I realized where I create, if I would have approached my business of celebrating my creativity and like bringing a new program out into the world, but then looking for ways to hardwire that connection. For example, having a version of it that could just live on my website where I could have an evergreen course that people could purchase, or maybe sometimes holding back a little bit. My best friend Desiree says I can be a little bit I don't know, spoiled youngest child, which I am, you know, in my family sometimes, of like, what do you mean I put an offer out and not everybody immediately signed up? I'm just going to create something different. Like I sometimes have that rebellious child in me, which is not helpful. Instead of leaning in and saying, let me really do everything I can to make this thing that I have already put energy into function well. And that, I think, is the balance. Some of it's age and experience, some of it's emotional intelligence, is just recognizing how I think I've created a little bit more challenging time, although I've had a ball. Like my kids say I'm like Forrest Gump. Like when I start to pull out these stories and they're like, you did what, Mom? Like you're on the border of like Venezuela and Colombia by yourself, you know, like what happened? I love the fact that I've had this adventurous life in business and in life. Now that I'm building things moving forward, I'm always thinking about what way to hardwire it in so that I can get some benefit after the rush of creation leaves me. Do you have any of that for you?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I thought you couldn't relate whatsoever to
Oh
what I
my
just said.
gosh. You totally just described me. And I do believe that it is this this force that through the green fuse drives the flower. The Dylan Thomas's wonderful stanza from his poem, that creativity is coming from us all the time, and we're totally enamored with this energy. And so if we launch something and it hits like a thud on the floor,
Yeah.
and we're like, no matter, I'll just make something else. So I completely understand. And I think that it's going to be really interesting to see how your work evolves. I mean, of course, I'm like the president of your fan club. I love all of the different kinds of things that you do. And I'm excited to see you spend more time in Paris as well.
And Edinburgh, yes, it's an example. And when I talked about in body of work, they're driving factors in my life now, just turning 56. I have 2 teenagers, one of which is going to college next year, you know, another one on his heels in a couple of years. So there's one very pragmatic side of wanting to really spend as much time as I can and also do things like travel. And we took that first adventure together to Europe, to Scotland and England and Paris. It was just so amazing and beautiful to see my kids in that environment and just how much they loved. My daughter especially, everybody loved it, but my daughter especially, something just changed. I remember we were in Paris and she looked at me and she said, Mom, you know, I love New York. She does love New York. And she said, before I just thought that was just the place for me. But now that I'm here, I just realized that like the pace, the kind of attention to beauty and, you know, design and she likes that old world kind of feel. It just was something that resonated deeply with her soul. So seeing that really drives me wanting to focus my priorities on having some adventures and travel. And the other thing does become legacy. Part of just getting older, I realize where I have put a lot of energy into creating things like books and tools and resources, they still can be very valuable to help people. I wrote Escape from Cubicle Nation and it came out in 2009. Now with a Great Resignation, I was just talking with my agent about this the other day. I'm not going to write an update or a rewrite. I just don't have the same juice for that book that I do for others. But there are a lot of things there that could be relevant and resonant with people. And so looking for ways to bring that out, share is I think is being helpful to the world. And I do probably the last piece of it that's more the creative challenge, whereas before it was all around creating something new. I have been so excited to see the success of my clients, people who are really successfully scaling and growing and doing things like licensing their materials or creating programs, that I'm very excited creatively to cross that same, that same level as well, because it has not been a priority. And I get great satisfaction in watching my clients grow and bringing their ideas to life. But now it's like, I see it and I can see the fit where my IP could really make a big difference. And make a significant more amount of revenue without a whole bunch of work. And that's kind of exciting right now.
Here, here. Well, I can absolutely attest to the joy of being a client of yours, being coached by you, being taken through your processes, being guided by you, held in the support and given the space to think things through and to push me to dig more deeply for other ideas and mine the material that's already inside of my mind. So thank you so much for being here today. And thank you for always just representing, in my opinion, the pinnacle of integrity and intelligence and kindness in the coaching sphere. I think that you are just one in a million, and I respect and admire you and love you tremendously.
I so appreciate that. I really feel the same. It was a huge joy to do work with you and to get a peek in a deeper way into your own body of work and just the joy for what you do. The belief that you have in the work and in yourself is just really a beautiful thing to see. So I appreciate you so much. And I'm so grateful that I got to play a small part in this.
Oh,
and I
more than a small part.
But I'm just so excited for this book to reach out in the world and for you to experience a thing that is just magical. It's the beautiful thing about books, that there will be the day, hopefully sometime soon, where somebody who you have never met, who you just had no idea who they are, will write you an email and say, your book changed my life. When one of my people, Andy Kwan, was found, Escape from Cubicle Nation, in a trash can in Paris. And that's the way that he found my book, in a trash can in Paris, which I love for an novel.
Oh my gosh.
Sometimes get in people's hands in unexpected ways. And I cannot wait for you to have that experience. And I'm really grateful to you for writing the book.
Thank you so much, my dear. I appreciate you so much. Have a great afternoon. Take care.
Too.
Bye. So I just want to check in. Let's see here. I'm going to just pop into the chat. Okay. So now I'm going to turn to the Paris drawing. I am going to close my eyes and dig into this box and try to get to the bottom. Okay. And here, oh my God, I'm going to cry. Gabby Downikoff, can you read this? Oh my gosh. Gabby's going to Paris. Gabby's going to Paris. So, Gabby, if you're watching, I will reach out to you and I will take you through everything that you need to know and do. And so I want to close now and thank everyone for coming today. I also would like to just ask you all, if you haven't purchased a copy of Buoyant yet, I truly believe in the power of this work and the power of this book. And I know that it will change your life and also could potentially change the life of someone you know, could be a member of your family, could be a colleague, could be a client. So I invite you to go online today or visit one of your area bookstores and purchase a copy and let it change your life, and to let yourself work lighter and make higher profits and tap into that incredible magic of the innate creativity that you have within you. And I want to stop the formal part of the presentation and just close with an excerpt from one of my favorite poems from one of my favorite poets. And this is an excerpt from David White's poem called Sweet Darkness. And this was published in his book of poetry called The House of Belonging. Give up all the other worlds except the one to which you belong. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. And with that, I want to again say thank you so much for everyone, to everyone for being here today. Let us learn to lean into and trust our vision and our voices. And let's create a wildly successful business that sets us free. Take care, everyone. And thank you again for being here. I love you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.